Hello, hello. I'm having the weirdest internet issue right now. So, if anybody is watching and it's not lagging for them, let me know because somebody just put in the comments that the internet is working. I've been having the weirdest internet problems at my house. Like, it'll randomly go out. I think it's working. It looks like it's fine. I hope it is, but I want to be sure because I don't want things to get messed up later. Someone just let me know that it's not lagging. That would be great. It doesn't look like it is on my end, so we're gonna go ahead and assume that it's working. So, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the weekend preview here on Hypermark. I'm Adam Beadle. Great to be with you. As another great Friday. We're getting 5 days to Christmas, which is crazy to think that um, Christmas is like the end of 2024 is almost here. I feel like I was just at the Fiesta Bowl yesterday, um, covering the Oregon Liberty game, and now we're here. Um, it has been it has been a very busy week. Not just for ASU, who's obviously still preparing to play in the CFP, playing the Peach Bowl. They'll play the winner of Texas and Clemson, which will be tomorrow. It's been a busy week in the high school world. It's been a busy week in the pro world. I watched that Thursday night football game last night with the free kick. I think it's the first time there's been like a free kick in an NFL game since like 1960 something, which is crazy. I didn't even know that was like a rule. It's just the weirdest thing of all time. It seems like it was like a rugby. Like I feel like that's something you would see in like rugby. So that's how I was confused. But yeah, nonetheless, college football playoff games start tomorrow. Those are going to be exciting. Start today, actually. I've been watching Notre Dame and Indiana while I've been getting ready for the show, and just watching it. And the new game day, the people that got in game day with Pat McAfee and Nick Saban. First of all, I love Pat McAfee. I watch the Pat McAfee show like 24/7, and I think the analysts they have are super good. Like obviously you got Nick Saban, who's been there for a super long time, knows what he's talking about, knows what he's doing. You got Kirk Herbstreit, who is just the GOAT, one of the best college football analysts there is. Reese Davis, who always does a phenomenal job. One person I not the biggest fan of is Desmond Howard. I just feel like his takes are kind of iffy sometimes. Can also totally tell he's a Michigan homer. So there's that. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, exciting time. Let's talk about by far the biggest news of the day that came down about 2 hours ago. First of all, Ty Wisdom has been hired as the next head coach at Chandler High School. Now, if you've been around the state of Arizona high school football for long enough, you should know who Ty Wisdom is. Last coach at Desert Vista in 2022, led Horizon in the Open Division in 2019. He had a lot of success at Millard South. In Nebraska, led them to a state championship. Obviously, they came here earlier in the season and faced off against Basha and Chris McDonald. The Basha Bears got a win. So first of all, super exciting to have Ty Wisdom back in the state of Arizona. And I'm excited to see how he grows that Chandler team, a team that I think this is a good hire for Chandler. I really do think that Ty Wisdom could be the guy to kind of bring the old school Chandler football back, and the national year after year when Chandler's competing at the national level, national competition. I really think that Ty Wisdom could be the guy to lead Chandler back to that point. So Chandler really making a splash hire. We've got a great group of CUSD coaches. Obviously, Coach Vaught has been killing it at ACP, which the Knights moving up to 5A potentially next year. So that's super exciting. Travis Dixon did a great job at Hamilton his first year, really kind of bringing that Husky culture back, and just sort of that, the feeling that I think kind of similar to what Travis Dixon brought to Hamilton this year, sort of like, this is the home of the Huskies. This is, going back to the roots. I think that's what Ty Wisdom is really going to be able to do at Chandler. So I'm excited for that. And obviously Coach McDonald leading his team to another open division this season. That's always, that was super exciting to watch. So, gonna be exciting. This spring especially is gonna be super exciting. Oh, I've got ghosts on the show. A light just went out. But nonetheless, spring going to be super fun, which we will talk more about sort of spring and tracking all that and offers and stuff like that later. A couple things going on this weekend, specifically in the state of Arizona. Talk about the Cardinals last week. Got that win against the Patriots after a 3-game losing skid. I really, to be honest, do not do a good enough job of keeping up with the NFL as much as I should. It's just not. I've said this. I've said this time and time again. The NFL is just not as exciting as high school or as college. Like if college football's on, I'm watching college football. Obviously, if high school football's on, I'm watching high school football. But like on Sundays, like it's kind of a mix of just like first of all, I'm doing stuff to get ready for the week, and so I don't really am not watching football or it's just like it's the NFL is really, in my opinion, started to turn into something like I wouldn't necessarily like stop, sit down and watch and like pay attention to unless I was actually at the game. Like I went to when I was in Dallas, um I went to the Cowboys Bengals game, which was awesome. The Cowboys seeing a Cowboys Stadium and AT&T Stadium is super cool. To get to see Joe Burrow throw a touchdown, Jamar Chase is super cool. I hope the NFL starts to get kind of exciting again because it really hasn't been great. The Cardinals only one game back from the top of the NFC West, so still hope for a wild card bid for the Cardinals. The Suns don't play today. They played last night against the Pacers. Uh, did not look great, and Devin Booker got hurt. And we will have the one and only Hayden Silly on the show to talk more about um, the Phoenix Suns and what they're doing this season. Hayden, Cronkite graduate, excuse me, has been doing a great job covering the Suns this season, and so we're going to catch up with him and talk more about what the Suns are doing, and then obviously ASU, just waiting time to see who they're going to play in Atlanta. So and obviously ASU's made a lot of splashes this week, bringing in some guys to the transfer portal. Some potential guys possibly could come to Tempe through the transfer portal. We'll keep our eyes on, and then obviously a lot of key guys returning with CJ Fight, Jacob Kangaika, Keyshawn Elliott, I believe, the 3 players announcing that they are going to return to Tempe next season. So we'll talk more about who those returners are, who they're bringing back, and all that stuff a bit later. Wanted to harp on this just for a second. This is something I am very excited about. I put this together on Tuesday. And it is just really cool. I'm going to go ahead and toss it up here on the screen. Many of you probably have seen the Arizona High School Football Division I offer tracker we have put up on Hypermark. And it's been super cool to see. How about this? 31 players in the class of 2026 have Division I offers, with Jaden Marquez just getting the offensive lineman over at Paradise Honors getting a Division I offer from Middle Tennessee just like an hour ago or so. But I mean, look at all this talent we have in the state. Lots of great talent. We got a couple players committed. Obviously, Justice Brathwaite. Brathwaite, excuse me, committed to BYU. Zethus committed to Arizona State. We also got Hamisi Juma committed to Arizona, and then obviously the number 1 player in the state with Tate Reynolds committed to Clemson. So I'm sure he's going to be watching that game this weekend. But yeah, super cool. Mason, props to Mason. Afraid you cooked on us. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and this is something we're going to use a lot to throughout the offseason, definitely in the spring when it comes to keeping track of guys who are getting offers, because I think everybody remembers kind of last spring. There were a lot of stuff. Players were blowing up and recruiting was blowing up, and a lot of guys were gaining traction. So this class of 2027 is not as big as 2026, but I expect this list to just grow exponentially as we head into the spring and deeper into the off season. And I got to shout out Coach MacArthur and Desert Edge over there, who has actually the most players in the state with Division I offers. He got 7 kids with Division I offers, which is pretty cool. And then we've also got a couple players in the class of 2028 who have a couple of offers: Torrin Hill, Colorado State, Jelani George, and this kid's recruiting is going to explode. this spring. This is a big time playmaker. Roy Oliver, very talented Hamilton wide receiver who might end up being one of the top 3 players in the class of 2028 when it's all said and done, maybe even potentially the number one. LeGarrette Blount Jr., who's got an offer from Marshall. He played freshman ball this season. Then Amos Augustine, a very talented wide receiver over there at Perry, who's got an offer from both of the in-state schools. So super cool to put this together. And it took, I'm not going to lie, it took a while to put this together. And people who are listening on Spotify, I'm going through our Arizona High School Football Division I offer tracker that you can find on hypermark.com. So lots of exciting stuff, by the way, coming to Hypermark and all the stuff we're putting together. We've got a lot of great content that we're going to be flowing out, obviously. With bowl season coming up, I know me and Jacob will be out at the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, so we'll have stuff on that. And then we'll also have, I think Jacob and Zach are going to be out the Fiesta Bowl. I'll be out at the Arizona Bowl in Tucson. I think I'm going to be there the night before and the day of the game. So we will be pumping out lots of content for the Arizona Bowl. Arizona Bowl has been great for us all year. We partner with them to do the game of the week. And so it's been a lot of fun. Hayden Silly is going to join us here in a second. But talking about a little bit about the Suns. I haven't paid too much attention to the Suns this season, only just because of everything else I've had to do. But 14-12 on the year, coming off that 120-111 loss to the Pacers last night. Devin Booker going down with the injury. Hopefully he can get healed up and get back to action and be able to come back. And still those lingering Jimmy Butler trade rumors that I don't even know what to think about. We'll ask Hayden a bit more about that. But yeah, I personally think that Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler is like the perfect trade for Phoenix, but I just don't know how the Miami Heat would want to take on Bradley Beal's contract. And with the start of the year, I think I would just like to see the Suns definitely kick more into gear and get things going and be able to produce. Tyus Jones, I think, really has been the kind of the unsung hero of this team this season. He's come on at a point in time where the Suns didn't have a true point guard, needed a true point guard. And he's averaging 12.5 points a game, almost 7 whole assists, 2 rebounds, a steal. So it is it's much needed. That the acquisition for Tyus Jones was much needed. So yeah, just waiting here a second, trying to get Hayden said he's coming on right now. So I'm gonna try to see if he's coming. Just texted me that he's entering the studio. I don't see him yet. So we're going to keep our eyes out on that. But while we're waiting, we'll talk about ASU a little bit. Obviously brought in the transfer additions over the course of this week. 2 wide receivers, and Noble Johnson from Clemson and Jalen Moss from Fresno State. Kind of fitting that ASU's first transfer edition of the portal, I should say, this phase in the portal, is a Texas kid with the whole Texas to Tempe vibe going on over at Arizona State. Only played in 3 games this season for Clemson. He had 3 catches for 16 yards. He was a 4-star prospect, a 4-star and top 300 prospect out of high school. So lots of upside for this guy, and he'll fill in a role with Xavier Guillory graduating, and I believe Troy O'Meary's graduating as well. I mean, ASU is going to be great at the receiver room next year. They also got Jalen Moss coming in, who said, like I said, from Fresno State. He actually has already played in Tempe. He was part of that Fresno State team that beat ASU 29-0, and probably what was just one of the worst ASU football performances I have ever seen. So it was not great. But we'll talk more about Moss. Back-to-back 500 plus receiving yards. My words are all over the place. I am extremely tired today. I don't know what it is. I just like got out of bed this morning so tired and have just been trying to wake up all day. But Jalen Moss, back-to-back 500-yard plus receiving seasons, one of 3 receivers this season who recorded over 500 yards, still has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So he is going to be a great player to go alongside of Jordan Tyson. And this ASU receiver room next year is just going to be insane. You got Jordan Tyson coming back. You got Malik McClain is going to get a full year. And I mean, we saw the glimpse of we saw that catch against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. So we know what Malik McClain is capable of doing. I'm sure ASU will continue to develop him more in the offseason. He wasn't with the team for the summer, joined the team a couple days after the start of fall camp. And so I think for ASU to be able to have him, for him to be able to finish to grow in a full offseason with the team, and just for ASU and Hines Ward to continue to develop him into a great receiver. I'm sure we'll see that too. And they've got a couple freshmen coming in. Obviously Uriah Nellums, who is coming in from Santan Charter, Cameron Dyer, the New Mexico Gatorade Player of the Year, coming in. So ASU's offense is going to be set next season. You got the running backs too coming back: Kyson Brown, Alton McCaskill, Jason Brown too, who I've said this again, I think Jason Brown has the most upside out of any of the Arizona State running backs in that room right now that are coming up. And then obviously the GOAT, the one and only Sam Levitt, who, by the way, Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson courtside at the ASU game last night. So cool to see some Valley kids there at the game and see them in action and stuff like that. Still some guys ASU trying to potentially, we could see them bring into the transfer portal. One of them, a local product. Me and Jacob talked about him extensively last week. Deuce Robinson, the former Pinnacle Pioneer USC wide receiver in the transfer portal, visited Arizona State last weekend. I believe he is visiting Florida State this weekend. So, it's going to be interesting to kind of see where ASU sits in that recruitment. But I also saw something from Matt Zientz, I believe that's how you say his last name, over at 24/7 Sports, and said the Branch twins weren't ruling out Arizona State as a possibility. So it'd be interesting to see Zachariah. I mean, could you imagine Jordan Tyson and Zachariah Branch on ASU's offense? That would be quite crazy. That would be very productive, I'm sure. And it would definitely be fun to watch, at the least. Trying to get Hayden in here, working with him. He said he was in the waiting room. Not sure. It might be a network issue on my end. So trying to see if he got in. He's not appearing down here. Sorry about that, folks. Trying to see where Hayden is. Hayden graduated from ASU last year, I believe, and he has done some phenomenal work. I believe he was doing some stuff with USA Basketball for a while, and then he was also working with, obviously, Cronkite Sports at the Cronkite School, and was covering a lot of great stuff, wrote a lot of cool stories, and now I believe he's with Clutch Sports doing some stuff, which is super cool as well. So we're going to get him on here soon if he is able to join. Still waiting to see if he is in. I might be having just some crazy network issues on my end, so not sure about that. Another thing about ASU that I wanted to mention is their defensive line is honestly just going to be a problem next season, because you've got CJ Fight coming back, you got Jacob Kangaika coming back, you got Clayton Smith coming back, and you got Justin Watley coming back. Those are all guys that have played meaningful snaps, 3 of which have started for ASU this season. Plus, you got Elijah O'Neal, who obviously, as of right now, is out of eligibility, but with the whole thing with Diego Pavia this week, which, by the way, is crazy. I mean, it's essentially what it is guys are going to get 7 years of college football, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. And I have a couple theories for what that whole JUCO thing could come about. I think there's obviously the world where JUCO eligibility doesn't count and players, get their whatever core classes at that point in time you would get done. You take those classes, you'd play football, eligibility doesn't count, then you go to a Division 1 school. I also would be interested to see, and I throw this hypothetical out there because it's at this point with the NCAA, you could say something, or have a take, or have a theory or whatever, and it honestly isn't like, at this point with the world we live in, any take about college football in the evolving world of it isn't crazy. Um, I think we could eventually see a world where colleges legitimately have like a feeder JUCO. And I say that because I think of the way like hockey works, and obviously the way baseball works with minor league systems and stuff like that. But the way hockey works is unique. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't exactly know how it works, but from what I've seen, this is the sense of it, is that you could like be in high school, you could be playing for some not necessarily minor league team, but some other like association other than the NCAA, other than the NHL, and be drafted. But at the same time, you could be drafted, you could also be playing in college or playing in the minors, or, so I just, it's honestly crazy. Both worlds are crazy to think about, but I really do think we could see a world where colleges, like let's say ASU, would have sort of a feeder JUCO where the team would be able to recruit kids. You'd be able to get recruited to Arizona State, but just because you're getting recruited by Arizona State doesn't mean you're going to play for Arizona State. So, like let's say ASU is targeting a kid in Arizona, they offer him, but they say, we're going to offer you, but what you're going to do is what we're going to do is we're going to send you down to this JUCO, and you're going to get developed for a year or two, however long. And then when you're done, or when we think you're done, you're going to come back up and play for us. And I think it would be a thing where like you can't necessarily, like in baseball, you can kind of drop down and pick up people whenever you want. I think it'd be a world where you obviously at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, you make a start point and an end point in time where you say, okay, we're going to take this number of kids and put them on our active roster, essentially what it is, and then we're going to take these other kids and put them down on our JUCO slash development team or whatever. So like imagine a world where ASU, like Chandler Gilbert Community College, I'm just throwing that out there for example, or like Scottsdale Community College, was essentially the feeder program for Arizona State, or the development program for Arizona State. You can kind of get where I'm picking up, where these schools, like obviously I think we get into a weird way because Arizona State and Scottsdale Community College, I'm just using this as an example, are not, you know, like Arizona State doesn't run Scottsdale Community College, so it's technically not like their program. But I wouldn't necessarily rule out a world where like things are regionalized. Um, uh, let's see, Hayden is finally getting in. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of tie to that where it's like, oh, it's regionalized. So like the Arizona State, the JUCO teams that ASU can send their kids to are SCC and CGCC and Mesa Community College, or Pima Community College. Like you can send your kids there, you can get them developed, but you can't send that. You can't like recruit a kid and then send him to like a JUCO in like Pennsylvania. Like again, this is all just a giant theory sort of thing that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days. It's kind of been interesting to me and could kind of, work or not work or be whatever. Um, I don't know. But I'd probably put a little bit more thought into it before I'd come up with like an elaborate plan and be like, all right, this is how it's going to work. Um, but what an interesting world we live in now, where it's no more, you either play 5, 4, or 3 years of college football, depending on if you're, redshirting, if you're just going the 4 years, or if you're good enough to only play 3 and then go to the NFL. We're like, no, you're gonna play 7 years of college football before we even get to the NFL. Like, I feel like at that point, guys would get to the NFL and their bodies would just already be so beat up that it would just hurt them. Um, so we'll have to see. But enough college football talk right now because we have the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Hayden. That's how I say it, right? Silly.
Yes, sir. You're one of the few people that's gotten it right on the first attempt, so I gotta give you that.
Let's go. Let's go. Hayden Silly, the Suns Mercury beat reporter for Clutch Points, graduated from Cronkite last year. Hayden, I haven't seen you in forever. I think the last time I saw you might have been the Fiesta Bowl at the beginning of the
It,
year.
I think it was. I think it was, dude. I've been seeing your stuff on Twitter. You're rolling, man. I
Hey, I
mean,
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. And you are too. Got a big opportunity to cover an NBA team. What's that like? What's this kind of like to be around the team essentially 24/7? You're at practices, you're at games. What's that experience just like?
oh gosh, it's hectic. So, just to give a little bit of a background, I've covered the Phoenix Mercury for 3 seasons before ever covering the Suns, and
Okay.
the media attention, and this is no disrespect to the W, but the media attention from the W to the NBA is significantly different. Like we're
Yeah.
talking, there's probably I'd say 40 to 50 media people like at minimum like per Suns game.
Yeah.
And that's not talking just writers. We're talking, audio equipment guys, videographers. We're
Yeah.
talking broadcast team. Like, dude, these guys do everything. And I mean, why wouldn't you want to cover a team that has, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and
Right.
those sorts of things? But cool part about being a beat reporter is that like we're on the ground 24/7. We're at practices, we're talking to them after the games. Some guys get locker room access. If you've been there for a while, you get locker room access. I don't, but that's okay. It's my first season. I got to
You'll
pay
get
my
there.
dues. I got to pay my dues at some point. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's hectic. I'm sure you've seen Sun's Twitter and how chaotic that can be.
Yeah.
We have, it's kind of a running joke with all of us within media, just, some of the obscenities that we hear or that we see just from asking a question. But
Yeah.
nah, man, it's a blessing. I would be remiss if I were to tell you it was anything but.
Absolutely. You said it yourself. You're on the ground 24/7 around this team all the time. Um, so let's face the obvious. Great, fantastic start to the season for the Suns. You couldn't ask for a better one. They were hot, they were doing great. And then things just kind of plummeted. Now they're back to above 500. I just in that time period in which they had the hot start and then things got a little rocky. What was the vibe? What did you feel the vibe was? What sort of just happened? What do you think happened or felt like happened during that time?
Oh dear. Um. So there's okay. There's a lot to unpack in that question. So I'll try. I'll try and kind of give you the Cliff Notes version of it, if I may. But
Go ahead.
I think a lot of the problem is continuity. It's hard when you're a team. I mean, if you've ever played any sport, having the same group of guys really helps. It
Mhm.
helps establish chemistry, camaraderie. It also really, it's a great test to learn people's character. To learn, when adversity comes, what are you going to do? Are you going to
Right.
be someone that's gonna look it, square in the face and do something about it, or are you going to be someone that kind of, shies away from it? And
Mhm.
I think the big issue with the Suns has really been that it hasn't been they haven't played bad. They haven't, like they've shot the ball well. Boonholzer's offense has it's unlocked a lot of, off ball movements. We're talking floppy sets, downhill actions, those sorts of things, simple cuts to the basket. But I think the big problem is just that nobody's played together long enough.
Yeah.
Booker's played every other game or every single game. I mean, and then obviously he gets hit with that, with that groin injury. KD and Beal have each only played 16 games. Nurkic just missed some time, and it makes it hard. It makes it hard because you have three superstars on the same team, and there's one ball, and
Yeah.
there's one ball, and that's not me saying that those guys are selfish, but those guys are scorers. They're scorers, man, and they need to get into a rhythm. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't care how good you are. It is so hard as a scorer to get the ball 4 minutes into the third quarter for the first time, and
Yeah.
you're supposed to be hot. So I don't think it's a coaching thing. I don't think it's a lack of effort thing. I think it's just a simple fact of they haven't been together enough, and you clearly see it, when they're on the floor. There's a little bit of awkwardness of, oh, okay, who's going to get the shot here? And then, it ends up being a shot clock violation, or, an extra pass, or one guy trying to make
Yeah.
something out of nothing. So a lack of camaraderie and a lack of continuity, mostly due to those injuries, is what I would say.
So two part question. What has then kind of been your impression of the big three since coming off the end of last season? Obviously, they didn't play very much early on, and then it kind of tried to string together towards the end, but then fell apart. And then how much has Tyus Jones just kind of been like the unsung hero of the team this season?
Oh man, Tyus has been. I wrote a piece about this for Clutch Points. The NBA GMs have their annual rankings every year, where they talk about most underrated signing, who had the best free
Yeah.
agency, and they talked about Tyus Jones only being the third best free agent acquisition, or like the third most underrated. And I forgot who was either first or second, but a guy ahead of him was Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, Hartenstein is a great player, but getting Tyus Jones for like basically the veteran deal for $3.3 million is
Yeah.
absurd. And not to mention, Boonholzer and Grayson Allen got him in there. Like that's a big thing. And they basically said, like, Boonholzer told him, like, hey, you're gonna start. Like you're gonna start. That's not a question. Because that was a little bit of my concern. I'm like, yes, you have the big three, but how's it gonna work? Like you're gonna be a little bit small, having Tyus, Book, and Beal all on the floor at the same time. But he's had a career year. Like he's averaging the most points per game. He's averaging the most threes made and threes attempted, and he's shooting like over 40% from three. And these aren't just catch and shoot opportunities, from the corner. Although he's been killing it from the corner, but yeah, like he's been lights out, man. And you can tell when he's in the game.
Yeah.
You can tell when he's in the game, and there's no question about it. And I don't think he's missed a game so far. Knock on wood, if any Suns fans are are listening to this, but I I think if he's you mentioned him being the unsung hero. I think if he gets injured, people are going to see how valuable he is. And
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, what was the first question of that two-parter?
What kind of has been your impression of the big three through all of their each of their time injured, not all being on the floor together, and just kind of we see what they're able to do when they're all together on the floor, but how do the Suns kind of battle that when they're not all out there?
I mean, Durant's been a superstar. He's been, in my opinion, obviously, I think Nikola Jokic is going to win the MVP, and I don't think it's close either. He's performing at an unreal level.
No, you're so true. That's so
Yeah,
right.
but Durant has, I would say, before he got injured, he was like second or third in that conversation.
Hmm.
And mind you, he's 36 years old. And he's playing like a superstar. And a lot of his points they're tough baskets, man. Like, and again, I go back to not having that continuity with the big three, because they just give the ball to Durant sometimes and just say, all right, go buy us a bucket. And it's cool. It's really cool, but I don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And he's talked about it not being sustainable. Same with the coach. Even Nurkic last night in the locker room was saying, he's like, with Book out, he's like, we need to, get somebody that's not named Kevin Durant, you know, the opportunity to score. It's not to say that other guys haven't had that chance, but when you have a near 7-footer on the floor that can shoot over anybody, that can post up, that can shoot, bing bing, left shoulder, right shoulder, step backs, catch and shoot off the dribble, like you literally have a guy that can do everything. And I think from my perspective, again, I'm not a coach, so I would say that the audience take what I say with a grain of salt. But from what I've seen is that they overutilize him. They use him too much. I found something this morning where he has I believe it's a 28 or 29% usage rate, which is the highest on the team. And although it's like top 20 in the league, for his minutes per game, which he's averaging close to about 35, that's a lot. That's a
Mhm.
lot. And for a team that, many have said is Devin Booker's team, he's been the guy in those sort of closeout situations. The shot clock's running down, and you need something to go in. So ultimately, I'm hoping that during this stretch they can find somebody else to alleviate the pressure from Durant.
Yeah.
I think Tyus has been great. Royce O'Neal has been a sleeper in my opinion. He's having a career year, and he's risen to the occasion. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. We don't know when Booker's going to come back. That's sort of the question that's in everyone's mind right now.
Mhm.
But if they can develop plays for other guys, Tyus, Royce, Grayson Allen, I would love to see Grayson Allen get more of an opportunity. But if they can get other guys the ball in their hands, and even if you're running stuff off the ball for KD, I think that's ultimately gonna help.
Talking about development, how have you seen the development of Oso Ighodaro and Ryan Dunn over the course of the 26 games?
Iguodaro's been amazing. I watched a little bit of him at Marquette, and dude's a stud. It's funny because him and Mason Plumlee have a very similar skill set, which
Mhm.
is why people say, "Well, why is one playing over the other?" And it's basically you kind of have the same person in there, which is a really good thing if you're Oso Ighodaro, because Mason Plumlee is a very good player. He's been on contenders for, I would say, the last 5 years of his career. You know what you're getting from him: physicality, rebounding, someone with the really high acumen, someone that can read the floor really well for a big guy, make the right pass. And what I love is a guy like Iguodaro does what I call the hockey assist, where he might not, like he sets a screen for Booker or KD or Beal, and he'll get that first, he'll get the ball dumped to him probably
Yeah.
about the free throw line, and he has this little, like push floater. It's really funny, but it's effective. But when he gets to that level, he's so smart about what to do. He can, he knows, okay, if Tyus is open in the corner, boom, I'm gonna sling it here.
Mhm.
If for whatever reason, like if he's open, he's gonna drive down the lane. He's been a lot more confident in that. But also, like I said, he'll have that little push shot if guys sort of sag off of him. But he's been great. Ryan Dunn, although like his numbers and his minutes per game have dipped, he's been really impressive. He had a really impressive first month of the season. I mean, Beal was out, and you have him really doing a good job of defending guys like Luca and James Harden,
Mhm.
and even Steph for a little bit. Like it's hard to defend those guys, but he's got the talent to do so. He's got the defensive instincts too, and he's what I call the perfect size. Adam. He's a 6'7", 6'8", probably about 220-pound guy, and he can get low. Like he can move side to side, move laterally really well, and he's strong. But I
Yeah.
think offensively, he just needs confidence. He's got a good shot. I've noticed probably the last couple weeks he's just been a lot more timid in taking shots, but I think a lot of that has to do with the big three not being there because they take so much, defensive attention away from guys like him and Royce and Grayson Allen, and he's facing a lot more contests. But I think if he develops a ball handle he's gonna be a problem because he's got the athleticism to go to the basket. I've seen it in games. He'll do an up and under. He'll do a euro step. He'll take contact. He takes contact really well.
Mhm.
But do I think that they're going to rise to all stars this year? No, I don't. But I do think though that Phoenix did acquire 2 steals in the draft. I was very skeptical about Ryan Dunn too. I called a couple of Suns insiders I know, and I picked their brain. I'm like, why is Ryan Dunn like this elite player that the franchise is basically drooling over? And people told me exactly what I just told you. Like, he's physical, he's strong, he has a good shot, but this is getting that confidence, is sort of getting a little bit
Mhm.
more power on it. But yeah, I mean, again, I would love to see those guys be utilized the next couple weeks. But overall, man, dude, they've been great. I think they have done what has been asked of them and then some.
Yeah. So I gotta ask, just because it's a looming thing that has been talked about for a while, um, and that's obviously Jimmy Butler. And I know the main talk is that Miami would never want to take on a contract of Bradley Beal. Um, but aside from the actual trade itself, do you think that the team is maybe distracted a bit by those talks?
Oh boy. You know what? No, I really don't. I think it's all white noise. I do. This stuff happens all the time. It
Mhm.
happens all the time. And mind you, what I think people are forgetting is that Bradley Beal has a no trade clause. So that's going to make it really hard if Phoenix really wants to move off of him.
Mhm.
I know his salary is a lot, but he has a no trade clause, so they could they could craft up the most perfect trade. They could hit the trade machine, and all Bradley Beal has to say is no.
Mhm.
But this stuff happens. It's happened throughout Beal's career when he was in Washington. That contenders are looking at you. You might be traded, and nothing ever happens. If you're also He wanted to go to Miami. People forget that he wanted to go to Miami before Phoenix,
Mhm.
and Miami shot down that idea. And I'm not one to say that everybody holds a grudge, but I would be a little bit sour if I'm like, oh, I'm going to a team that doesn't want me. Like,
Yeah.
that sucks. Uh, but also, Booker's out, right? You have a constant injury bug around this team. It's funny. My dad and I were talking about this the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, I don't like to say it. He's like, it's a matter of time before Booker gets hurt, because it happens once or twice a year where he'll
Yep.
miss 15 to 20 games every year, and it's usually a hamstring or a groin or an ankle or some kind of lower body injury. And man, again, I think it's white noise. I think that Beal has done what's asked of him, and then some. I know people are going to say, "Well, he's making over 50 million a year. He should be averaging 30." But when you're on
Mhm.
a team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you don't have to, right? He's been a great defender this year when he's been playing. He's shooting like over 70% at the basket, which I think is a very underrated component of his game.
Yeah.
Duke can get downhill and take contact with the best of them. Although his 3-point numbers have sort of fallen off a little bit just because the last couple games, like last season, he shot, I think, a career high from three. Like, he's a really efficient player. It's just that, they haven't needed him to score 25, 30 points a game. They're going to need that now. But,
Yeah.
Suns fans can get all mad and say, it's a waste of money. It was a bad trade. And I get that and I understand that. But this is why you get a guy like this, because if there are moments where your top scorers are going to go down, and you need someone to buy a bucket, and Bradley Beal can buy a bucket. So ultimately, I don't think the team is focused on it. I know Matt Ishbia can get a little bit trigger happy, as we've seen with Durant, with that whole
Hey,
deal.
hey, shout out that $2
I
menu.
know,
That
I know.
I'm loving that. The only thing is, I saw that I was like, Ishbia, you're the goat to that, but I'd really like the $25 refund for the amount of money I paid for water this season. Like,
Hey, maybe we can get you a rain check.
That's what they need. A what?
They could get you a rain check
Yeah,
for all that money you were spending earlier.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, there is no reason why that I bought maybe what 4 waters for $8, and now I could buy almost like 12 or 15 waters for
Yeah,
$2 and just
dude.
stack up.
I saw on Twitter. I forgot what account it was, but I saw on Twitter somebody. I think it was like the AZ Zone account, and it's like, look at all this that I got for $10. It was
Ah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, like it was a hot dog, it was a drink, it was like a couple sides, and I was like, dang man. I was like that would have been nice, 3, 4 years ago when I was back in college with my friends.
right.
We were going during the pandemic and stuff. I'm like, I don't want to have to spend $10 for a soda. Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?
exactly. It's crazy. It's cruel. Hayden Silly joining me talking about the Phoenix Suns. Hayden, one last thing. What do you think is the thing that the Suns need to improve upon the most going into the new year?
Defense. Defense. I know Mike Budenholzer is not a defensive coach, and he's made that very clear. But you can't you can't be allowing 115 and 120 points a game and expect to win. It's
Yeah.
impossible. Granted, like for example, last night's game against Indiana, they shot the ball really well. They shot the ball really well, and teams are going to do that, right? If you're going to lose to a team that shoots 62% from three, fine. That's you can live with that. But you can't and if you're contesting them, that's one thing. Like if this is like Steph Curry and you got two guys on him and he's draining threes and he's got 8 or 9 of them, whatever, fine, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing all that you can. But this is a simple rotation issue. This is teams like Indiana, and I love using them as an example because I think they're really underrated in this aspect.
Mm.
They move the ball really well, and Halliburton is the guy that sets the table for him. And it's literally they have a set offensive system. It's not just penetrate and dish, and they're gonna play teams
Yeah.
like New York, for example. They have a specific system now that they have Karl Anthony Towns that just exploited their defense. I think another thing too, and this is the one I kind of get on the coach about, and some of my other colleagues do, is the turnovers because
Hmm.
some of them are really bad, and and Durant has always taken accountability for it, but it's mostly been him and Yusuf Nurkic. It's trying to fit the ball where it won't fit. It's literally
Hmm.
like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like it just doesn't work. And there are times where like they're trying to thread the needle, and I'm like, okay, like if you're Tyus Jones, yeah, you can thread the needle, but
Yeah.
there are other times where it's like you're almost like you're not going to be selfish if you're coming off a screen and you have about 5 feet of space and you just take the shot, right? Like that to me isn't selfish. You're making the right play. You're not trying to force anything. For example, I wish I had the box score with me, but I think Indy had between like 25 to 30 points off of turnovers last night. Like, and the Suns had 16, which the
Yeah.
Suns passed the ball really well. They have, I think they're like top 10 in assists. But when you have 16 turnovers, and mind you, like Indy's not known for playing defense. They're
Right.
just not. But they had a strategy. They had a strategy, and it was switch everything. It was be active and have active hands because there were a lot of times where they would it was a simple pass and you had a guy just whoop just poke the ball away
Yeah.
and little effort plays like that. So defense has to improve. Durant being back does. I think it's huge for that. I
Hmm.
think if Boonholzer has gone with a 5 out with Durant, and you have like if you can do this now because Booker's out. You can have Tyson at the point, Beal in at the 2, O'Neal at the 3. Actually, could you? Yeah, O'Neal at the 3, Ryan Dunn at the 4. You could kind of interchange it, and then
Yeah.
have Katie at the 5. You've got perimeter defense. You've got shot blocking. You've got a lot of versatility. That's a nice part about the Suns. That's why I'm ultimately not concerned defensively because they do have a lot of defensive. They have a lot of wings that can guard 1 through 4, but do you have a guy that can guard the five? Nurkic has been, I think, a guy like him playing a guy like Miles Turner is good for him because Turner is not going to put the ball on the floor or post up every second. But if he plays a guy like Anthony Davis or Karl Anthony Towns, that yes, they can shoot the ball, they can stretch the floor, but they're dominant in the post and they're athletic.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an athletic center, he's kind of toast.
Yeah.
But you have Plumlee, you have Iguodaro. I expect Budenholzer to go deep in his bag with the rotations, with the defensive versatility, and their schedule doesn't get any easier. I know they play Detroit, but they're well coached. They have JB Bickerstaff. They have
Yep.
Cade Cunningham, who is looking like the superstar that everybody thought he would, and he's playing winning basketball. So you got to worry about that. And then you play Denver, and I know Denver on paper hasn't been the best. Jamal Murray hasn't been great.
They're still Denver at the end of the day.
That's the thing. They still have the best player in the league right now in Nikola Jokic, and I've watched some Suns games last year, most notably Denver and Phoenix, and Nurkic was in foul trouble like
Mhm.
early on. And while some of that might be, Jokic is getting calls, a lot of it is just because, Jokic is smart. He knows
Yeah.
exactly what he's doing. So don't mean to go on too much of a tangent, but if they can fix those two things, man, it'll be good. But they gotta fix them soon. They gotta fix them soon.
Totally. Hayden, I appreciate you. You are very knowledgeable what you're talking about, doing a great job
I
over
try,
there.
man.
I have to ask just because I know you're an ASU grad. What's it been like to see the success Kenny Dillingham's had this season in ASU? I know you had to deal with a couple of
I
rough
did.
seasons during your time.
Listen, okay, I remember Herm Edwards walking off the field when
Yeah,
Eastern Michigan beat ASU, and
yeah,
my buddies and I looked at each other and we're like, "Oh shoot," because Ray Anderson was walking with him, and my buddies and I are like, "Is he getting fired?" Like we legit thought like, "Oh, he's fired," right? Like
yeah,
we think he's getting fired, and then came as no surprise the next day. Oh, by the way, Herm Edwards is gone. I'm like, well, I'm like, no disrespect to the guy, but it was about time.
yeah.
And last season I saw a lot of potential. There's not there was not the talent that's on this team now.
Yeah, right.
And like you go, you go to UW, you almost beat them. You're a pass interference call away from possibly knocking them out of the playoff in the national championship game.
Yeah,
That was crazy to me. And man, their offense looks awesome. Levitt's been great. Scadaboo, obviously. I mean, we saw it a bit last year, but a couple of my friends, that are big college football savants, like told me, and they covered the team last season, and one of them told me, he's like, dude, he's like Dillingham is like the next like the next big college football coach. Like he's
absolutely.
he's just smart. He has the X's and O's down. He's got the mentality. I really didn't like when he called out his kickers. I wasn't too big a fan of that.
Yeah,
And I get it. It's a heat of the moment thing. But I'm like, this is not like your DB group or your offensive line group where there's five of them. I'm like, there's one guy. But I mean, listen, they won every game in November, and they, you know, it's funny because Dillingham talked about, well, I'm surprised at this year the amount of success, but I don't think that they're really that surprised. I think
mm,
that they thought. I mean, listen, dude, if Levitt is playing against Cincinnati, that team only has one loss. They
yeah,
have one loss. They've won every game at home, and I won't lie, the Peach Bowl concerns me. It's weird. People think Texas is the problem. I think Clemson is the problem. I think if you
okay,
because Clemson's playing with house money in
right.
in in college sports specifically. If you play with house money, you're a threat because you have nothing to lose because you're gonna pull out all the tricks of the trade, and plus also people forget Dabo's a winner.
Yeah,
Dude's won a couple of national championships, right? And Clemson had a bit of a rocky year to start. Yes, they get blown out by Georgia. They lose to South Carolina, but they creep their way into the ACC title game. They win it. And here they are. And Texas, I think, is at their most vulnerable. They have a great defense. They're still an SEC team, so that automatically gives them an advantage in my book.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
yeah, man. I mean, it'll be fun for the first time in my life. ASU is in the college football playoff, and I don't know what I'm gonna do if they win. I have no idea. I'm probably gonna lose it. I might tear the house up. Like,
Oh boy. Oh boy.
so apologies to my mom, or if I'm out with my friends, apologies to my friends if I tear up the house. But we're all ASU grads, so we all endured the harsh reality of a Herm Edwards led football program, and
Yeah,
hopefully we see history, man.
totally. Hayden, I appreciate you. We're definitely gonna have you back here at some point. Get you on talking Sun. So always great to have you. Good to catch up, and I'll catch you around.
Yes, sir, man, dude. I'll have to swing by the studio one of these days. I got to see the Adam Beadle wheelhouse.
Well, I'm not at the radio station anymore.
Oh, I see.
I'm
Okay,
here. I'm with Hypermark now. We're
okay.
all locked in with Hypermark. So I go I do I still do some play by play for them, but I'm not. They're tearing up the studio right now. They're doing some renovations. So
Ooh.
next time I see it, maybe it might be the next time you see it too. So uh, definitely for sure. Hayden, appreciate you. Catch up with you later.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
All right, later. Hayden Silly joining me talking some Suns basketball here on the weekend preview. Interesting take about Clemson in Texas. I think me and Jacob have talked extensively about how, um, you know, while we think that ASU is playing as good as basketball as Clemson and Texas are, or not basketball, excuse me, as good as football as Clemson and Texas are right now, there is this gap, and I think that's the one thing. ASU fans should be a bit worried about is the sort of gap that ASU has, the 3 weeks that they're not playing football. Although I will say, from being at practice on Wednesday and just seeing what ASU is doing in practice, they're practicing real well right now. They're practicing hard. They're not treating this like, oh, we have a tiny little break. We're just kind of gonna relax and chill and lay back. They're still attacking this like they got to play a meaningful football game this Saturday. Which obviously they don't have to play a football game till the first, but they aren't treating this as if it's just some, laid back, chill kind of break. They are approaching it, um, with hunger, I should say, and they know that they have a chance to do something crazy. So I'm definitely excited to watch the Clemson Texas game. I know that Quinn Ewers and Cade Klubnik go way back. I think Cade beat Ewers in the Texas State Championship right before Ewers left for Ohio State, and then he became the first. I forget that Ewers was kind of the first guy to like have this ripple effect, the whole NIL world, where he left. I think he was at South Lake Carroll. He was at South Lake Carroll. He left and left for Ohio State to get the NIL deal. It was like $1 million NIL deal, and everybody went crazy. And now it's just like a normal thing that kids are leaving high school early to go, play football. Also saw that Butter Tollefson is with ASU. He practiced with them for the first time today. That's cool to see. And he has just been all over the place. I mean, you talk about a guy who uh, got denied his transfer exception in California, moved to Arizona, played quarterback at Mountain Point, and now he's with the Sun Devils, all within the span of like 6 months. So Tollefson has been a busy guy for the last couple of months. So good for him to be able to get out there and practice the team and really get developed early and be able to work with Coach Dillingham. I saw a video, I think Chris Cartman posted it of Dillingham working with him one-on-one. That was pretty cool to watch. Cam Scadaboo also forgot to say got an invite to the Reese's Senior Bowl, so he's going to be going up to Alabama, playing there later, early in 2024. So that'll be exciting to watch. There's only been a couple of ASU players the last few years that have gotten invited to the Senior Bowl. So it'll be cool to watch that. It'll be cool to see that go down. All right. Before we get out of here, talking again about the stuff going on this weekend, Cardinals taking on the Panthers on Sunday. Suns also playing tomorrow against the Pistons. ASU basketball also playing tomorrow. Boy, rough game for the Sun Devils against Florida. It might have been the second worst performance behind the Duke game. There just seemed like, and Bobby Hurley has this weird history of going on his team's going on elongated breaks, and then they come back and they just kind of hit this dry spell. I don't really know what it is, what to explain of it, but that's kind of just what it felt like. It was just ASU just took too much of a break. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, but they're taking on UMass tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I believe should be an interesting game. Also, lots of high school basketball games going on across the valley tonight and tomorrow. I might try to make it out to Valley Christian tomorrow. They play at 2 o'clock as well against a team from Colorado. I always like to make a yearly trip out to VC, go see the staff over there. Greg Hagsma. Got to shout out my boy John Hunsaker, who does a great job PA announcing over there. He runs all of Valley's social media accounts. So might have to make a trip out there to VC. Lots of exciting stuff coming for sure. ASU football, obviously, you got a couple recruits to watch out for, but could potentially making their way to Tempe through the transfer portal. And so it's gonna be a busy time. Could potentially be a show next week, could not, just with Christmas, everything being super busy. Plus, I think this time next Friday will be the 27th, if I'm correct. I will be in Tucson for the Arizona Bowl. So definitely keep an eye out on Hypermark for all the content from that. Should be great. Going to be an exciting time. Stay tuned. The Twitter may or may not be a show next week, depending on what the schedule is, if I can get things pre-recorded. But before then, I hope that everybody who celebrates Christmas has a wonderful and very Merry Christmas. I hope you spend lots of time with your family, enjoy it, eat a lot of good food. And remember the real reason why we celebrate Christmas is because it's because of Jesus. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we may or may not see you next weekend, but if not, definitely before the new year. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you later.